Hi, this is Alexa Hanish, and you're watching Outside the Games.
We'd like to welcome everybody to Outside the Games. Thank you so much for coming into our program. This is about the student athletes, about their academics, their character, who they are on and off the field. We have a good one today for you folks. We have here, this is Kayla Estrada, class of 2023, out of King High School in California, with a 3.8 GPA. She's a catcher, first and third base. She's also part of the Firecrackers Schneider 16U club team. Kayla Estrada, thank you so much for coming onto our program. We welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. Hey, I tell you, we get into the program about, and we start here. This is important. Family. Family's important because they support you. Explain to us how you would define family and why, Kayla.
So family has always been a big role in my life. I'm a firm believer of family comes first. Without them, I would not be the person I am today, the player I am today. And in my opinion, family is the biggest blessing.
That's a great definition of it. Now, your parents play a role. Now, are there any brothers, sisters?
Yes, one sister.
One sister, older or younger?
Younger.
Okay. So big sister looks out for little sister, of course. But your parents play a role, mom and dad. Let's start out with dad first. What does he do to help you to be the best student athlete possible?
So my dad, he's a coach on my team. He's an assistant coach, and he's coached me since I started playing when I was 4. And he has always taken care of like the more physical side of things, the practice, running me to practice, from getting home from work and hurry up, change, let's go to practice. But he has not just been there for like car rides and stuff like that, but also just being that someone on the field that I look to, when I need someone or when I'm having a bad game, he'll tell me, it's okay, you'll get the next one, or, you need to work on this, you need to work on that. So he, in a healthy way, keeps me in check on the field. So very grateful for that.
Love that. Love the fact that he's there for you and he's spending that time. Well, mom, we can't leave mom out. Mom has a special role in your life. And what is she doing to help you out?
Yeah. So with my mom have always been super close. I go to her for everything. And with her, I think more in the softball aspect, she helps me with my mental health side of softball. So if I had a bad game, we'll talk through it. We'll break things down, figure out what went wrong. And without both of my parents in general, I would not be where I'm at today. But not only with that, stepping into a little bit of the recruiting process, both of my parents, my mom and dad, work super hard to open these new opportunities to me, for lessons, for camps. So I'm very grateful for both of them.
I mean, Kayla, you could think about all the sacrifices from probably age 4, you probably don't remember a little bit too much, but let's be clear. You could remember the sacrifices they put in for you, tireless work. Let's be clear. I mean, they have to really sacrifice things, their own time, sometimes for you. And so take me through what that sacrifice, and when you see them do that, you watch them, you're observant of that sacrifice. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel very special and very grateful for what I have. Seeing how much sacrifice and how much work they go through to provide for not only me, but my sister, who also plays club soccer. Seeing that just makes me feel so special and so grateful to have both of them in my life, because without them, I would not be able to play the sport I love.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. Well, we talk about mentorship. Mentors, they're this extension of family, right? So they can be coaches, trainers, recruiters, maybe. I mean, whoever. But who are your mentors, and why are they so important to you?
So I've had a couple mentors throughout my whole softball career, and in life in general. But I have a couple of them, and I'd say one is my coach on my Firecrackers team, Coach Daniel Schneider. He has taken me in. This will be my 5th year with him, and he has taught me so many different lessons and taught me the meaning of how certain situations are good and it's good for you to struggle. So in that side, that he's one of my mentors. Another mentor I would say is my recruiter, Coach David Humphreys. He has opened so many new doors for me, and he has got me to realize that nothing is ever given; it's earned through hard work. And he has gotten me to work every day, work on my game every day, want to play in college, get to that college level. So for him, I'm very thankful. Another mentor of mine, they kind of go together, piece together, would be my batting coach, Coach Jimmy Flores, and his daughter, Aaliyah Flores and Alicia Flores. Without them, I would not be the player I am today, because they not only focus on batting, but they also focus on like life lessons. And they're always a phone call away. So if I ever need anything, I go to them, talk with them a little bit about the college life, what to look forward to, what to do. So I'm very grateful for all of them.
Yeah, because if you think about it, Kayla, there's always some type of challenge, right? I mean, there's times that you want to, your parents have their role and you're going to share with them everything that you can. But there's these ones that they've kind of been there. They've seen some girls and, go through their system and they've had some experiences. So something valuable to you is that when you face those challenges or adversities, you have a question and you're like, what do I do about this? Are they there for you? Do you feel that they have your best interest at heart?
I do. I truly believe that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, hey, we're going to talk King High School. King High School in California. You're going to be a junior, Kayla. So take outside the games inside your high school at King. Explain to us what that's like.
Yeah, so at school, I'm involved in varsity softball, but not only that, I am a director in ASB. I took on a new leadership role this year, being athletics director. So I run all of athletics at King, and I make sure athletes are, recognized for what they're doing, but not only being an athlete, but being a student athlete. So I've taken on that new role this year, and King is a great place to learn, and it's a great place to not only take the leadership roles that I've learned there, but kind of take it back into softball through ASB, and it's a great place to learn.
I like the fact that you're taking these roles of leadership. I think, look at you. That's awesome. Could you say that with King High School, is it a small school, big school? What's that school like a little bit, class size, or is it the experience there academically?
Yeah, so I would say it's on the bigger side of schools. Class size is normally around 30, 35. It's kind of varied because of COVID. It's kind of changed, but I would say it's a great learning environment. The teachers are great, and they provide so much help. I would say King is a great place to learn.
Great. Academically, we're going to speak on academics a little bit because I think academic support is huge. King High School, what is their approach with academic support for their student athletes or students in the school?
Yeah, so for me, personally, if I ever need academic support, I go see my counselor. That's always an option. Or, everybody at school always has their school, in a sense, mom, their school, like dad, in a sense, but it's like a teacher, someone really close to you. And that would be my ASB advisor. So I would go to her for anything I need academically, emotionally, mentally, anything I need to do, and anything I need to talk about with her, she's always there.
You mentioned Kayla a couple times, and I think this stood out to what this time we've spent so far. There's a side of a student athlete emotionally, physically, and mentally. You mentioned that a couple times. How important is that support for you all?
Yeah, so Going back a couple months, I went through a huge death in my life, and it kind of opened my eyes to a mental and emotional health. And that death was my grandfather, and we were very, very close. And losing him, I kind of went through a stage in my life where I needed the help, and I never really needed help. So ever since then, that experience, mental and emotional health has meant more to me than most things.
Yeah, I mean, a death in the family, and especially when you look at somebody that you're really close with within the family unit, that hurts. I mean, sometimes there's a question of, do I even want to keep going in sense of what I'm doing academically? I mean, really, it's like things pause, uh, and we're talking mentally. You know, things pause. Softball doesn't become somewhat important. Academics may, you just need that pause moment to kind of reflect and kind of deal with the loss of somebody who meant so much to you. Um, how did you get through that? What was it that you were able to, because there's student athletes all over the world and in the US that, you know, we talk to, and everybody has a different moment when they deal with losing a loved one. How did you get through that? How did you get past all that and get things back, get things going again for you?
Yeah. So when I lost my grandfather, he was always the person to take me everywhere for games, everywhere for camps, for college stuff, for practices, everywhere. He was always there. So getting back into softball after he had passed was one of the hardest things I think I will ever go through, just because of how close we were in the sense of softball was kind of our thing. um, so getting back into that took a lot. Getting back into school, academics was a lot because at the time we were still in distance learning. So it was hard. Um, but I wasn't alone. I had my family support. It came to the point where I had to actually see a therapist, get the help. So going through that really helped, and I was able to open up and talk about certain things, get things off my chest, as far as the trauma from the passing. So being able to talk and being able to have the family support, I'd say, really helped me get through it and get back to doing things I love.
You know, we love this discussion, Kayla, because there's somebody that's feeling maybe they lost a loved one and how did they get through it. And so this was a great example of, you know, showing how you can get through it. But I also like this. If anything, I like this. And we're seeing this a lot from the professional athletes that we see today, when dealing with mental, you know, depression, or they're just like, hey, you know what? I'm human. I have human feelings. And though I play a sport that it's like rah, rah, you know, I'm going to go get them and everything. But there's a moment of you that makes a little bit of fragility, sensitivity. But you look at it in a way like, you know what? I am going to see a therapist. I am going to get some help. I cannot do this. And I think this is where people tend to kind of like, kind of self-absorb and self-analyze, and you kind of say, I can do this myself. Doesn't work. You have to get the support of others, and especially coming down to when you know you have some kind of problem, it could be anything, seeking help professionally, that makes you stronger. That does not make you weak, correct?
Correct. And my thing is I never realized that it was okay to not be okay, because I've never really gone through something like this. So I think realizing it's okay not to be okay and taking that first step and getting help is the biggest thing.
Love that. I love that, Kayla. Thank you very much for sharing something so personal to you with us with Outside the Games, because it is outside the games. So we these things mean a lot for those your peers and everybody that listens to watch this program. So thank you so much for that. But let's get back into the teacher-student relationship. Obviously, the teachers mean something. First of all, take us through class. What is your favorite class right now, Kayla?
I'd say my favorite class is anatomy and physiology.
Why so? What do you like about that class?
So I took the class because I want to major in kinesiology, to become a physical therapist. So learning about the human body and the way things function, I take interest in that, and I'd say that's my favorite
I
class.
love that. I love that. Yeah, I hear a lot about student athletes taking AP classes, and wow, those can be very hard. So they can improve the GPA a lot, but don't get it twisted. But yeah, it can be a hard classes to take. Uh, take me through though, and I know Kayla, you may not have a non-favorite class, but come on, I mean, there's got to be a class you kind of go, I'm not feeling this class too much.
Yeah, that would be math. I've always struggled with math. That one doesn't come as easy to me. Kind of have to work a little harder at that class. But that's definitely my least favorite class.
And there's something to be said, and we've heard this a lot on our program with regards to tutors. Tutors don't make you weak; they make you better. And so, have you found it to where you're trying to kind of, when you come into a situation in math where it's tough, do you seek out that help to make sure, I'm going to get this equation correct? Whatever I'm taking in this math problem, I'm going to get this right. I got to get this right because this is an important piece to my GPA. Yeah.
Yes, I do. I either that I'll seek out for help through a teacher or a peer, or I'll just watch videos online until I grasp a concept.
I love that. So, with the teacher-student relationship, there are things that the teachers have to possess in order for you to be a successful student. Take outside the games through what teachers have to have within them to help you be successful in the classroom.
Yeah, so I've always been one to like the stricter teachers, to like the teachers who kind of keep you in check, you know, don't do this, or I like my structure this way. Um, I think just because it keeps me in check, um, and it keeps me organized and keeps me on like a set schedule. Um, so I think in order for me to be successful in the classroom, I've always had to be with a teacher that's a little more stern. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the way I learn.
Yeah, I mean, that gets the most out of you. Let's yeah. That's the thing about that is why you would want somebody that's going to be stern, direct, and but also be passionate about what they're teaching you. I think there's a level of that as well. For you, Kayla, though, what do you have to possess in order for the teacher to be successful? Teachers love good students. They love students that want to learn. We know this. But what are some things you have to do to be successful in the classroom?
In order for me to be successful, I kind of have to have a set workspace. I don't like too much clutter, just because I won't focus if things around me are going to distract me. Um, but in the classroom, being in distance learning, it was always like that. I kind of had to have a set spot I would do my work, or else it wouldn't get done because I would get distracted. Um, but going back into the classroom, that was my thing. Like being inside of an actual classroom, I am able to learn so much better. So I'd say physically being in person is kind of what I need in order to be successful in
Wow, that was a difficult moment for student athletes when it came to distance learning. I mean, Kayla, you had to have been like all these other student athletes on the Midwest over to the South, Texas and over. They got to go to school. They had it all planned out, protocols, all that. And now that's politically driven, and it's just as governors and protocols and all that stuff. On the West Coast, it was a little bit different. I mean, there was some struggling going on in regards to when it came to online learning. Did you really learn a lot though about yourself when it came to online learning? And yes, you didn't like it. You would prefer to be in the classroom, but it also taught you something about yourself of how you can handle and get through something that you struggle with.
Yeah, so I learned a lot through distance learning, not being in the classroom, going from a student who was super involved in school with ASB, always at school. I was never home just because of that's how busy I was with softball and ASB both taking up so much time. Um, going into distance learning, I absolutely hated it. I definitely did not like it, but it taught me that you're gonna have to adapt to certain things in life. Things are always changing. You never know what's gonna come tomorrow within the next few hours. So it taught me how to adapt to change, and kind of take that into a positive direction and run with it.
Yeah, change is never fun. I mean, because you're so used to everybody loves to have some stable situation, of course. But when things change, it's like, okay, now we find out who you really are and how you're going to handle and get through it. So, that's powerful. Well, we're here with Kayla Estrada, class of 2023, catcher, first base, third base, at King High School, 3.8 GPA academically. She's doing it strong there. Part of Firecrackers, Schneider, 16U. We'll be right back.
The time is coming for us to get out and go again, to visit all the places we didn't know meant so much. But we're all going at our own speed. At Enterprise, peace of mind starts with our complete clean pledge, curbside rentals, and low-touch transactions. With so many vehicles of so many kinds, you can count on us to help you get everywhere you want to go. Again, whenever you're ready, we're ready for you. Enterprise.
Welcome everybody back to our show here at Outside the Games. We have Kayla Estrada, class of 2023 out of King High School, GPA 3.8. She's a catcher in softball, first and third base, and she's part of Firecrackers Schneider, the 16U club team. Well, I'll tell you, Kayla, let's talk about this. You look at, for you, tools are everything. You could take softball. What do you need? You need a mitt, you need a bat, you need your cleats, you need a lot of different equipment to help you be successful in softball. And that's just equipment. But there's some equipment that you need to be successful in what you're trying to manage. Look, softball, school, academics, family time, training, softball teams, club team. I mean, all of that. What tools do you use to help you be successful? Could be a lot of different ones that help you.
Yeah. So I'd say the first big tool I use is a planner or a calendar. Staying on a planner and calendar, and I've always been the type of person who, if it looks pretty, I'm more likely to look at it. So that's my thing. So if I make a calendar pretty, or if I use fun colors, I'm more likely to go back and check it and look at my assignment due dates, look at my practice schedule for the week. So I think the biggest thing that helps me out is a calendar, writing everything down so I don't forget. That's one of my biggest tools.
Yeah, because I think there's something to be said about a student athlete with visual. I mean, when you see something visually, just planned out on a calendar, you see the days, you see what's there listed as far as what you got to tackle. I mean, does that visual planning really help you?
Yes. So I've always been a visual learner. I've always liked to see things right in front of me and written down. So writing things down is more likely to get me to remember things. So it really does help me.
And there's something to be said about when you have a list and you're able to scratch it out. There's a sense of accomplishment. I got that done. I can move to the next. Yeah.
Yes.
With that, is there other things like reminders and things that you try to set for yourself to keep, because you got homework assignments, you have tests coming up, you have, there's some things you have to remind yourself on, because hey, the brain can only capture so much. You can't remember everything. So you need a little bit of help.
So I use the reminder app on my phone, or sometimes I'll set timers, and a timer will go off, and then I'll just title the timer like, this is due at this time, or you have practice in 20 minutes, you need to be ready when your dad gets home, or something like that. So I'd say using the timer app or using the reminder app on your phone, it just pops up, because sometimes you're going, and you forget about it. But then you always, every teenager always has their phone on them. So it's like, if it pops up, it's like, oh, okay, you remember, and then you go from there.
I mean, why not use a tool that you always have on yourself, right?
Exactly.
And I think the thing is too, is when you look at it, parents got to be pleased too when they see you. Okay, she's setting a reminder, she's setting a timer, she's using that tool the right way. Let's talk about this though. When you look at all that you have to do, there's some challenges with managing all of this. As a student athlete, what are some things that stand out that you say that are challenges for you in having to manage all this?
So I'd say one challenge that really stands out is almost a mental block. Um, Kind of going, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, or oh, I just have no more motivation. I'd say that's a challenge that kind of stood out to me within the past couple months, even um, getting through the mental blocks and getting through kind of realizing that it's okay to take a day off here and there. Like it's okay to do something fun, be a kid, um, once in a while, because you're going with softball and academics and school. And if you're involved with extracurriculars at school, like ASB, you're always on the go. So it's almost like you kind of need a day off here and there to reset, refocus, and keep going to get through the mental block.
So you value those times where you're able to say, I need a mental health day.
I do.
Nothing wrong, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing at all.
With the mental block though, do you just, are you able to toss it out or are you kind of chipping away at it?
Um, you know, I've always been the type of person who, if I talk about it, I'm able to toss it. But if I don't talk about it and I kind of subside my feelings, um, then it's just it'll come up in another situation, and then it'll turn into this big old thing. So as long as I talk about it, um, then I'm good to toss it out.
Well, I tell you, you've been through a lot, definitely, and it's great to hear on how you handle a mental block situation. That's really important. Um, let's talk about media. How does a student athlete handle social media? What's your take on that? As far as there's some you have to be responsibilities there. Social media is very important how to handle it. How do you do that, Kayla?
So I have two different types of social media. I have more of a personal social media, and then I have my softball social media. Um, so starting with personal, kind of focus more on what's important to me on my personal one. So as far as family life, friends, God, softball, even. So I put that kind of stuff on my personal account. Stuff with school too, even sharing about homecoming or sharing about certain events coming up. That's the kind of stuff I post on my personal account. Um, I don't like putting anything out there negative just because it's like I just don't like it. I don't like um, posting my feelings in that kind of sense. But as far as my softball account, I use it in a positive way to try and get recruited. Um, so I'm always posting on there, tagging coaches, trying to get looked at, trying to get seen. Um, but on my softball one, I also post um, kind of about how it's more than just a game. It's more than just softball. So doing certain things with my team, like volunteer hours or volunteering with the Dodger Foundation, which is one of the volunteer things we do. So kind of posting about that on my softball account. That's how I handle my media.
Oh, I like that. I like it. There's balance there for you. So it's like this is where this goes. This is where that goes. You mentioned something about community. Take outside the games through some of the things you do in the community that help others. That's really awesome.
So with my travel ball team, my coach, he works for the city, so we kind of do a lot of volunteer work with the city. And one of my favorite things that we do is the Dodger Dreamfield Foundation. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but we take kids with disabilities and kids with special needs, and we give them kind of the opportunity to play the sport that we love, that they love. Um, and we just go out a couple days here and there, every couple months, and we'll go out with them and we'll spend like the morning with all of them, playing softball. It's really nice. It's a really good experience. Kind of teaches you that there's more to life than just a ball game, you know?
No, I love the fact that you can do something to help others. And that's great that your club team, your coach looks at that, at opportunities. I think that's the word there, opportunities to give to others. I think when you do that, that's a special thing. Happiness in giving than there is in receiving. It was always, that's a virtue there. Um, so with the community, and I think the fact that, you know, going back to media, knowing people are watching, because it's true, there's people watching the media. You are always thinking before you post, correct? You're always being careful what you do because there's this thing called screenshot.
Yeah, so I always think before I post. My mom has always told me ever since I was little, you know, somebody's always watching, whether it's on media, whether it's on your softball account, your personal account, in person, doesn't matter. Somebody's always watching. And I think kind of stepping into the recruitment process a little bit more this past year, and seeing what certain situations that have turned negative have like shown me in media, has gotten me to for sure think before I post, for sure only post about what I care about and like what I'm passionate about, what I love. So thinking before I post is a big thing.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that's you when you take it serious and you see that, hey, you're thinking beyond the post. Like what effect could this post have? That's important. And that's a lesson for a lot of student athletes. I think that's something good for student athletes to know. Well, let's talk about Firecrackers Schneider, 16U team. So take me through why that organization. Why did you choose that organization? I'm sure your parents talked about that with you. What was about that organization that stood out to you?
So, a couple years back, I came from an organization that, you know, I loved playing for. But there's always comes a time where an organization can only take you so far. And I kind of went through a rough couple weeks, with leaving my old organization, until an old coach of mine from rec ball pointed me out to the Firecrackers. Never knew what Firecrackers was. I was only 11, 12. And so I had no idea what the Firecracker Nation was all about. But instantly when I tried out for that team, it felt like a family. Coach Daniel Schneider, he took me in under his wing, showed me the ways of the Firecracker Nation, and you know, it feels like a family here. This will be my 5th year with them. And even though every team always gets new players, new girls, the chemistry has always been there. But you know, it goes beyond my team too. We just merged with Tony Medina. So with the D-Up clinics, everything like that, even with the merge recently, it still feels like a family. And we work a lot with Coach Tony Rico. And you know, listening to his talks for the first time, I think the first talk I've ever listened to with him, I instantly knew, you know, I this is why I love being a Firecracker. But not only with it being like the family-oriented organization, Firecrackers hold something where it's not just softball. It goes beyond softball. You know, it goes into the community, the leadership, the roles. You know, the Firecrackers teaches you lessons that you're gonna have for life beyond the sport you love to play. So being a Firecracker, you know, I think deep down I'll always be a Firecracker, just because I love it and I can't see myself being anywhere else than here.
I love the fact how much you love to be a firecracker. It has meant something to you. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. When it makes an impact like that for you, that's a special organization. Definitely. Do you find it? I thought it was interesting with the latest merger. Do you find it that a lot of these club teams are starting to do these mergers? Do you think that there's starting to be an alignment there? That when a coach says, you know what, I like what they're doing over there. I kind of want to see what we can do to merge with this person. I could utilize that, and I'm sure they could utilize me. Do you find that a lot with club teams are starting to do a little bit of that?
I do. So with the merger that we just did with Coach Tony, he was already on the Firecracker organization, and we were too. So it was just kind of my coach loved the ideas from Coach Tony, and Coach Tony loved the ideas from my coach, and we kind of wanted to bring the two together. And so this merger has been nothing but amazing. Like it has opened so many new opportunities for not only being me, but all of my team. Um, and I've started noticing a little bit more all of these organizations doing that. Um, but in a way, I think it's a positive thing just because nobody thinks the same, nobody does the same things. So everybody's always bouncing ideas off of each other. And so being able to have kind of somebody you're merged with, uh, it only can take you further in life, further in the game itself too.
Yes, and you can say that those teaching moments you get from the coaches, wow, those are valuable moments that you can take with you because you find that the student athlete will eventually they'll be recalling those and they'll be using those in a situation. So you could probably think of some very important teaching moments your coaches have had with you. Yes.
Yes.
Also, your teammates. Take me through what those teammates mean to you on Firecrackers, Schneider.
So my teammates, there's been some where I've been with them since, oh my gosh, since I started travel ball, 9 years old even. And we really don't like to use the word teammates on my team. I mean, even though they're teammates, it's more of sisters because we're with each other more than we're with our own family, you know. Um, so being able to have kind of those people you look toward. I mean, even the past couple months, what I went through with losing um, my grandpa was always there. Like my teammates thought of him as their own grandpa. But having my teammates there when something like that happens and them kind of knowing what I'm going through, it's just made me more grateful for them. The chemistry that we have there, even though we've gotten new girls, we've kind of switched up things a little bit here and there. I mean, there's chemistry there just because our thing in Firecrackers and kind of our coaches always taught us is the chemistry isn't going to work on the field if it's not working off. So we focus on that a lot. So a lot of bonding, a lot of talking, and every team's going to have their little issues. Every team's going to fight, every team's going to bicker, but being able to pull those certain people aside and having a conversation with them, moving past it, getting through it, and keeping that same chemistry even for 5 years now, it's been amazing.
Your sisters, we'll call them your sisters, okay? You'll find it though that sometimes some of these sisters are playing for other high school teams. So there'll be a time when you're actually facing them in a competitive moment. How does that feel sometimes knowing that you're going to face them competitively?
Yeah. So my dad actually, he every time before we go dark, before we go into high school season, he always says, your friends off the field, but on the field, you're enemies in a sense, right? So I don't know, being able to play against like your own teammate, it's almost like you want to play harder because it's like, oh, okay, well, you're gonna see each other in a couple months again, and then you're gonna be like, oh, remember this? Like we did this against your team, or we did this against your team. So kind of talking about that afterward, it's fun. It makes things a lot better.
But I tell you, those times of after the game when you see your sister, what a good game. Either if it's a win or it's a loss. I mean, you're still seeing your sister because there's always that family structure of Firecracker Schneider that means so much to you.
Yes, exactly. And when we play each other in high school season, it's okay, go hard, but afterward, it's like you're still there to say, "Oh, you did so good," or "You had a great game." It's still that sisterhood.
Oh, we love that. That's awesome. Well, hey, we're here with Kayla Estrada. Boy, her story is amazing. To hear a lot of the different experiences she's had. Class of 2023 out of King High School, 3.8 GPA, part of the Firecrackers, Schneider, 16U. She's catcher, first and third base. We'll be right back.
I feel like everyone has a superpower, and mine is endurance. So the ability to test myself to keep going is important. Everything I do is with purpose, because we all have the power to change our world and someone else's. What motivates me to keep going is the question, why not? There's no reason for me to stop or slow down. I'm not busy, I'm productive. I see myself as a student, always willing to learn. It's important that I know what it means to continue to grow. The air gun keeps me going. It has made me more intentional about what my body needs. I'm Ali Love, founder of Love Squad, Peloton instructor, and Therabody athlete. I see myself as a conversation starter, a thought provoker, a holder of space. How do you see you?
I'd like to welcome everybody back to Outside the Games. We have Kayla Estrada, class of 2023, King High School, 3.8 GPA, catcher, third and first base. Firecrackers Schneider, club team, 16U. Kayla, people want to know, why softball? There's so many other sports. What was it about softball that you fell in love with and you got passionate about it that you continue to play it today?
So my grandpa originally introduced me to softball because I had an older cousin who played softball. So I kind of watched her as I started to get into the sport a little more. Watched her play, kind of realized, okay, maybe I want to try this. So my grandpa introduced me to the sport, and instantly I tried everything else. My parents put me in basketball, ballet, tap. No, never volleyball. No, ballet, tap, basketball, soccer, all kinds of different sports, but nothing felt right until I touched the softball in a sense. It began to feel normal, and it felt right. So I went through the rec ball phase, and then as soon as I kind of hit travel ball, I hit the ground running. I became super passionate about it. Kind of realized, oh, I want to play in college. I have these dreams of mine. I have these goals that I want to get there one day. And I didn't set those alone. That has always been mine and my parents too, but mainly mine and my grandpa's biggest thing was I'm gonna play college softball. And so it just made me become more passionate, and it made me fall in love with the game even more. Feeling that dirt in your hands, being on that field with those girls, the feeling of hitting your first home run, catching the ball, making an out, everything about the game of softball, I love. Even the failure, even the challenges, you only learn from them. You only grow from them. So, everything about the sport, I love.
I mean, you can think about the passion, the love for it, and all that, but that word comes from you're doing it in academics, sacrificing. There's work you're putting in and sacrifice for that game. So it's not always something you may enjoy. I mean, there's some work that you put in. So that's what gets us to our next thing, Kayla, is training for the sport. What are some things that you're doing that, hey, may not be your favorite thing to do, but you have to do them in order to get to be the best at that sport?
Yeah. So my mom and my dad have always enforced that, if you're not working, there's somebody coming right behind you to take your spot. And so having that always in the back of my head makes me work harder. And I've always been my own critique, and I've always been my biggest critic. And so being hard on myself has made me work harder for the certain things that I want to achieve. I work every day, almost every day, you know, because you always need a break here and there. But I work on my hitting, my fielding, my catching, endurance, conditioning, you know, something different every time. Whether it's working on your finish, on your swing, your extension on your swing, going to lessons, putting in the work there, but not only putting in the work there, you know, taking it home, doing it over the week, training your body to be the best player you can be, not only for yourself, but also for your team, because, you know, there's no I in softball. So if one girl's not working on that team, it's going to show. Because, you know, you may practice with your team twice a week, once a week, if that, because everybody's on a different schedule. So if you're not working outside of those practices, your team and yourself, you're not going to get anywhere.
I mean, that's really what, when you talk about the work you put in, it shows. It shows. It will show you. Do I play well or do I not play well? Am I prepared or am I not prepared? So yes, definitely that's important. Now, strength and conditioning may not always be your favorite. There may be some kind of strength and conditioning drills you do that you're like, I hate this, I don't want to be here, but I know I have to. This is part of the work. This is part of me sacrificing my time and doing the most that I can do. So is there something that condition drills, or, you know, there's the core workouts, there's the weight training, all that. What are some things that you found about Kayla that you've had to do more of and get better at?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I've never been the fastest person on my team. But I mean, ever since I was little, I've never been the fastest. You know, catcher, you're not really supposed to be the fastest. That's what everybody says. But you know, I've had to realize that, you know, sometimes doing strength and conditioning, it's a good thing sometimes, just because you can use it as kind of a stress reliever. So I started doing that. Over quarantine and over COVID, I started to run, like go on runs, kind of use it as an escape. So realizing like there's other things you can be doing as far as like working out to better yourself in other ways, as opposed to just physical wise. I mean, I would say running was my biggest thing.
But we're not going to escape this. Weights, weights, and weights. So has that been something where Kayla's going to do a workout and she's sore from the weight training? Has that been something that I think Firecrackers, Schneider, or, you know, maybe on your own trainers, have they really looked at that as being something that, because on the college level, there are some ones that are strong. They're strong. Don't get it twisted. They're in the weight room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My thing has always been, you know, skip the running, don't do the running, just strictly go to weights. I don't know. I've always loved to work on like leg strength. Being a catcher, that's my favorite thing to do. So I actually prefer doing the weightlifting as opposed to like the cardio. So anytime, you know, I gotta lift weights or I do anything that has to do with strength as opposed to conditioning, that's my favorite.
And I think there's something to be said about it, and we'll get into the position that you play, but there's something to be said about the fact of stretching, keeping your joints stretched, and, you know, playing that position. You have to do that because the muscles can get tight. Do you find that stretching becomes a big, important piece of your routine?
I do. So I mean, everybody at a young age, when they first like start playing the sport, everybody's like, okay, stretching, you know, is whatever. But as you get older and your muscles start to get tighter, you know, stretching is very key. I've had a couple injuries here and there, mostly to knees. I was out for a little while, a couple months with a knee injury, a couple years back, and coming back from that and seeing my team play and me sitting on the bench being in a brace, and it was not fun. And so coming back from injuries, not even just with the knee, but other injuries such as like a broken finger and stuff, it just kind of makes your stretching routine and your pre-game routine, you take it more seriously, and you don't want to ever sit out on the sidelines again. So stretching has become very key, and I take my time with it.
Oh, that's great. Kayla, take me through your position. What are your strengths and your weaknesses? Now, weaknesses, student athletes don't like to talk about weaknesses, but they're there. There's a way to improve. But take me through a strength that you're really good at the game of softball in your position.
So I'd say one of my biggest strengths would be my use of leadership skills. Um, being a catcher on the field, you see everything. You see the whole field. You see what's going on. You see how many runners are on base. You know the count. You talk with the umpires. But I'm going to take it a little further and go into even the relationship with the pitchers. Being able to have a relationship with the pitchers, I mean, the pitcher and catcher, in my opinion, they control the tempo of the game. Because without them, they're working every single pitch, every single at bat. So, my biggest thing and my strength would be my leadership skills, because I'm able to, everybody has something they can work on. And this is the one thing that I'm constantly working on, is my use of vocal skills too. And being able to communicate with my pitcher and say, oh, hey, like, you're good, calm down, you're going to be okay, you're going to get the next one, or kind of guide my pitchers in, I'd say that's my biggest strength.
I'm kind of thinking mentally strong as well, because not only are you dealing with your own, because really you have to catch the ball in the strike zone of where that ump is going to call that strike. So you have your game you have to manage. But guess what? Your pitcher may be erratic. They may be dealing with something. You got to coach them up. So there's not only your concern, but almost the concern of the pitcher, because they're delivering the ball in order to get the batter out.
Yeah.
That's big. Weaknesses. I don't know. Kayla made me like, I don't want to talk about weak, but is there something about your game that you see that you can work and get better at? Film can break that down.
Yes. So I've always been a firm believer of, nobody's perfect. There's always something to get better at. There's always something to improve on. And, my mom has told me since I was a little girl, you can't say you're the best until you bring home that gold medal from the Olympics. My mom has told that to me ever since I was a little girl. And so weaknesses, everybody has them. And so like, I don't mind talking about them at all. And, I think my biggest weakness is I get in my own head. I overthink things. Not even with catching, just in the game itself, hitting wise too. I'd say my biggest weakness is I get in my own head, and I press a lot, and because I know what I'm capable of, and it's just I overthink the situation, or I try a little bit too hard instead of, taking a step back, relaxing, realizing I know, like, in a sense, I know what I'm doing, kind of thing.
Well, you get into softball. King High School softball. How did it go last year? And explain to me what that experience was like.
So last year, we had a rough season last year. It was rough. Coming back from COVID, we were one of the only sports that was able to, have a season, even if it was, seeing the same team 3 times a week. It was rough. We had 3 games a week, practices every other week. That wasn't even the hard part of it. I think it was just more of you were always on the go with the high school season last week, but at the same time you were kind of trying to manage travel ball at the same time, just because there was no dark period last year. And so going from one coaching style to another coaching style, I would say that was the hardest part, just because I had 2 different coaches who one was this way, one was another way, and in both were positive. None they just had different methods, and trying to adjust to that was pretty hard because normally you would get that kind of month break from travel where we're just with your high school team before you play, and it wasn't like that last year. And so last year's high school season was rough, but again, it was a learning experience, and you grow from everything. So hopefully we take that into consideration this year, and we have a better run.
I think that's what motivates you, Kayla, is the fact that you went through these things with the coaches, different coaches, COVID, seeing adjustment to training, adjustment to practices. Now you bring on this year. What are some things that you and your teammates look forward to? Well, I guess you can call your sisters too. Your teammates are, at King High School, right? Your sisters. What are you all looking at this year to get better, and how can you improve? That conference, CIF, not an easy conference, nah?
No, and with King being in the Division I league, with Norco and all these other schools like Roosevelt. I mean, Roosevelt went to the CIF championship last year. Like that was, we played against them, and so going through the season that we had last year, I think we want it even more this year, just because we didn't get the proper season we deserved last year, just because COVID, ruined everything. And so this year, even more, I think we're going to work harder for it. We're going to strive to be the best version of ourselves that we can be for our team in order to make it a better run and a lot better than last year. And
so more games this season, yes? There's going to be more games. Everything's kind of regular scheduled, yeah?
Yes, so more games, tournaments too, pre-games, or preseason games. So we get a lot more this year. And I think something else too that would change, or we would like to see change from last year, is the team chemistry, because normally you would get that month to kind of bond with your new teammates, because every year you're getting new girls, because there's always that next class coming in and that one class leaving. So when you have that one chemistry, that 1 month to build that chemistry before you start playing together, it makes a big difference.
I think about you, Kayla, and again, your sisters on King High School that you play with have an impact with you, but you can also have an impact with them. What are some things that you can do? You're a junior this year, so you do tell you, I want to be a little bit more vocal. I want to be able to help and do what I can, because senior year's coming. It goes by fast, but your junior year is a special year. So what are some things you can do to help your teammates and coaches?
Yeah, so I think this year, more than any other year, I kind of want to be a little more vocal, just because the past couple years, we've had a catcher, like a senior catcher last year who was in that spot. And I was playing my secondary, but being this year and kind of having that shot to be starting catcher, being vocal and using those leadership skills to better our team, better myself, in order to make it further this season. I kind of want to use my leadership skills and my vocal skills to make our team better.
Oh, I tell you, I know you want some hardware. You want to get to state, you want to be able to get that experience, and every even if as a junior, okay, it's one thing as a senior, but as a junior, you can get that experience. Is it a young team, or would you say it's kind of mixed a little bit?
I would say it's mixed. In previous years, we kind of we had more of a younger team. My freshman year, we had 6 freshmen come in, so we were kind of on the younger side. But I'd say now we have a pretty good mix of all different age levels.
Tell someone that was watching this program that you learned a lot your freshman year that you could do differently. I'm sure you look at that. Take somebody that's watching this in the sense of what could you do differently your freshman year, and how important is that freshman year versus now you're a junior, you look back at it.
Yeah, I'd say my freshman year, I had a lot of help with being an ASB. Um, everybody goes into freshman year not knowing their place, not knowing where they belong. Um, Being that scared little freshman, I would say don't, to anybody who's watching this and they're going into their freshman year, I would say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's not as scary as you think. Um, and honestly, I mean, being an ASB, I still wish I would have put myself out there a little more. Um, you know, I went into my freshman year. I know as far as like softball wise, I kind of didn't know my place on the team at first. Um, just because I was quiet, I was a freshman on varsity. And so I was the younger one. I was the youngest one, and so I really didn't know where I belonged. I didn't know, like what this person thinks about me or what do they think I belong here? Like I would just say, know what you worked hard for and know you worked hard to get there and where you belong because it's going to save you in the long run.
Couldn't say it better myself. That's a great advice. Recruiting process, obviously you go through, again, it's a process, you're patient with it. Take me through what that is for you.
So I have a recruiter, David Humphreys, who helps me out a lot. And he has opened many doors for me, but not only him, my batting coach, Coach Jimmy, using your resources to kind of further yourself in the recruiting process, is key. I mean, I talk with many different mentors about this, and using your resources is a really key thing in the recruiting process. I mean, even though I'm only a junior and September 1st was only a couple weeks ago, it's been a process. I mean, it even started before September 1st. It's definitely a process. It's stressful, but good. And when you see the success come out, even in certain emails or text messages, or even hearing through somebody, through a resource, like, oh, you have this school who's looking at you, or they want you to attend a camp, or so-and-so followed you on Twitter, those little successes, make you excited. They make you, grateful for the experience, because even though recruiting is stressful, it's a good thing because, somewhere, somehow along the line, you're going to end up somewhere, and I think in the recruiting process, I've had to put in my own head that, you're going to make it. This is your goal, your dream, and you're going to end up somewhere. It's almost just a matter of where, but trusting the process and trusting that the stress is a good thing as far as the recruiting process, I would say is the biggest thing.
Well, I'll tell you, there's some fans of Kayla Estrada today that are going to be, boy, what an experience we've had with you here at Outside the Games. Thank you so much for being on our program. Talking about your story, who you are, your character, academics, what makes you, and really there's been struggles. There's been struggles that you've had to deal with, and you've gotten through them, and it's made you stronger. So those are great experiences for others to hear, and you look back at, you reflect on those moments that now, Kayla's gotten through it, and now I'm ready for anything next that gets thrown my way. We appreciate you coming on our program.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. But we're not done. We have this thing called the Quick Blitz. Yes, we get to know Kayla Estrada personally. Favorite part of our program. Favorite food, Kayla?
Mexican food, tacos.
All right. Favorite dessert?
Macaroons.
Favorite musical artist?
Luke Bryan.
Favorite shoe to wear? Casual. Vans. Okay. Favorite cleat to wear?
Nike. No, sorry, New Balance.
Apple or Android, and why?
Wait, what? Sorry, what?
Apple or Android, and why?
Apple. I like FaceTime.
And you can add more people to it.
Yeah.
Last movie you just saw?
5 Feet Apart.
If you could travel a destination spot anywhere in the world, Kayla Estrada, where would that be?
Bora Bora.
Let's get serious on a couple things. If you were, had to be somewhere, you're running late, you had to let somebody know, would you call or text, and why?
I would text, just because, I don't know, phone calls stress me out on another level.
What is your least favorite thing to do, could you say?
Read.
Last thing your mom just told you?
Good luck on the interview.
Last thing your coach told you? Schneider or your King High School coach?
I think my coach told me he's proud of me because I'm going to a camp in a couple weeks.
Favorite car or SUV to drive if you could choose one, Kayla?
Range Rover.
I know your teammates want to be in that with you. Sisters want to be in there with that. Get serious on a point here. The world is changing quickly. Socially, economically, politically. If you could impact one thing in the world today, for Kayla, what would that one thing be?
Impact anything? I would say sharing about mental and emotional health. I had an interview the other day, a couple weeks back, with a program, and if we can help one person, my mom said in the interview, and I'm quoting her words, that's one more person that we'll have here today. And so being able to impact on the mental and emotional health side of things, and realizing it's okay not to be okay, and helping somebody, get their smile back, because that's one of my biggest things. I love smiling. And so helping somebody find their smile and find their happiness again, I'd say that's something I would want to impact.
I love that. We love that a lot here at Outside the Games. Final question. Ooh. You're junior. I know you'll get this right. It's what you would prefer. Would you prefer to read a book, or would you prefer to be on Outside the Game Show?
Outside the Game Show.
Hey, we appreciate you very much, Kayla Estrada, class of 2023, GPA 3.8, So GPA 3.8, and she is from King High School in California, Sunshine State. Also part of Firecrackers Schneider, 16U. She's a catcher in softball, first and third base. Kayla, it's been a pleasure to have you on our show and program.
Yes, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much as well. You take care. Give the best to your coaches, family, and all your sisters and your teammates.
I will. Thank you.
Hey, this is Ariana Silva, and you've been watching Outside the Games.